been a very strange day. Let me begin. It's the 23rd minute, 17th, 23rd, something like that, of Roma versus Inter Milan. And I'm looking at our little chat group of AS Roma and Roma Club New York, I should say. And who do I see a picture of but Matt Damon? And I'm like, wait, that can't be the real Matt Damon. And yes, it was at Roma Club New York. So I'm like holding my baby. By the way, yes, if you didn't see, we had our baby. She's 5.5 weeks old. She's doing great. And my wife's like, you got to go now. And she's been watching the whole Bourne Ultimatum series. And I love Ocean's 11, Ocean's 12, and Interstellar. Matt Damon's in so many good movies. Incredible actor. And she's like, go, get me an autograph. And I was like, okay. So I ran out the door, drove to Manhattan as quick as I could downtown to Castell, where Roma Club New York meets. I throw my car in a parking lot. I'm always too cheap for parking. But for today, I was like, nah, I'm going to pay for parking. I'm going to go try and meet Matt Damon ASAP. Not like 2 minutes later, we're in the middle of the street in downtown Manhattan with the Striscione, the banner at the club. And Matt Damon's in the middle of it. And we're all like, yeah, sing Roma chants and stuff like that. And I got to meet him. I got to talk to him a little bit. It was very cool. And totally a gentleman, cool guy, smooth. And yeah, I was so happy about that. He will, unfortunately, I think he had to go. He won't be joining today as a special guest. If you want to turn off right now, I don't blame you. But from a sporting sense, guys, what an aggravating day. It's not that, I think it's unfounded. Like if you're like, I'm disappointed, the season's over. Well, half the season looks like it might be over. I give you that. There's still a lot to fight for. At the end of the match, but I think we see something very important, which is that Jose gets the guys together and he forms a circle. And we've seen him do this before. But what that demonstrates is that the team is truly unified, that they come together on one front and hopefully they work through this and that the goals that are still remaining, they're achievable. And even if Roma just gets to the final, I think that's a part of that season we can consider a success. Do you win the final, then I say the entire season is a success. Then you get back to the Champions League. If the season ends right now and we don't count the Europa League, I think it's a disappointment. Did the team fall short of expectations? Under the circumstances entering the season, yes. Under the circumstances as they evolved, no. I think where Roma is right now is realistic given the players that are at hand. It's no surprise that when Dybala and Chris Smalling are there, Roma win. When they're not, chances are they don't come away with 3 points. And that can't be a shocker to you or to the media who want to throw Jose or Roma under the bus because you know that newspapers and outlets like Gazzetta dello Sport and Tutto Sport, which are Juventus and Milan-driven backed news outlets, that they're always going to have something not positive to praise Roma. I mean, even when they won their Conference League, it wasn't like, I don't think they gave the due that was really owed to Roma after that. So just want to say that going forward, though. But let me know what you thought and what you're thinking right now. It's kind of like what your emotions are. And it's a beautiful day here in New Jersey. A little bit of pollen going in my lungs, but I'm chilling in my backyard right now. I've got my little patio furniture. Just take my cover off here. If perhaps a squirrel jumps onto my shoulder and before he bites me, just let me know, please. Sometimes they like to do that. Sometimes they like to run across the fence. So don't be alerted. If you see that, just let your brother know. Okay, I'm just looking through some of the comments. Thank you, Paul. Thank you very much. Sufyan says, people keep acting so surprised about bad performances. If you're buying a burger, but the place is out of meat, ketchup, and pickles, chances are you're not going to get a good burger. Yeah, so it's funny you use a food reference there, Sufyan. I've been watching Chef's Table on Netflix, and they have a new series. I think it's new. It's pizza. So I'm assuming that they're going to go through all these different pizzaioli and their backstories. And one thing that this guy from New Mexico, actually, he's from the Bronx, but he goes to New Mexico and he opens up a pizza spot. And they're like, oh, my God, it's the best pizza we ever had, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, okay, it's in New Mexico. I don't know how good that pizza could really be at the end of the day. But he made a really good analogy. And he says, people wonder, is it the water? Is it the cheese? What is it about the pizza? And he says, look, you can't put bad ingredients in the oven and expect us to get something good out. That would be a miracle. And for unless, we're Jesus Christ here, and I don't think any of us are the 12 apostles, then I don't know if miracles really exist all that often on the football pitch. The only way that you can grow as a team is after a defeat, like you saw today, getting the players unified, and the next step, you go back out onto the pitch and you go and try to meet your objectives. But you can only play the cards that you have at your hand. Did Roma create enough today? I sure as heck think so. I saw a team that created endlessly from the final third, especially from the width, from the half spaces and all the way out to the wide spaces. There were a ton of crosses that went in that weren't met by Belotti or whoever happened to be the center forward at the time. And not to blame Belotti. I thought he worked hard today, but it just hasn't been enough. Going from the back line here, I think Spinazzola has played so many games, and I've got Jose's press conference, and instead of going on and on about my opinions and thoughts, I kind of want to hit the press conference here early. I've got my little iPad to help me out. I took photos of this because I know that my Wi-Fi could have suffered as I got further away from the house. Let's see. Okay. And if you want to follow along, just jump to Riccardo Fati. Just liked my tweet. It just came up. Riccardo Fati, as in the Fati who used to play for Roma. That's pretty cool. Just liked something I posted. I posted the picture on Twitter. By the way, if you want to follow along with me, go to my Twitter right now, Wayne in Rome, of course, and you'll see the press conference typed out the way that I'm going to do here. I've got it. The first question from DAZN, he gives an interview to DAZN as well as Roma TV, and the reporter asks, what did you tell the team following? And he says, simple, that I'm proud of them, that I thank them for the effort made, the effort of the tired, of those who only played with one leg or those who played with a rib fracture and therefore a serious pain. I thank the kids who always work with us, and I thank the stadium. That is incredible. It is incredible that these guys have created what they've created with the stadium. For me, a defeat is always hard, but I am proud of them. Tomorrow, day off for them. I'll be at the Tre Fontane for the Primavera, and Thursday we're here. He's asked, are you optimistic about the European challenge? Will anyone recover? He says, I'm not optimistic. I am thanks to my boys. Today we played against the best in Italy, and there were very tired players like Cristante, Mancini, and Pellegrini. Then there were injured people and children. Looking at Bove and thinking that when I arrived, he was going on loan to Triestina and now plays as a starter for Roma, this is a reason to be happy. There are episodes during the game, and if the club wants to speak well, otherwise it doesn't matter. I don't do it because I was attacked and destroyed in my ethics and my education. I'm also happy because the person who was disqualified for 3 years for football betting did it, and that makes me happy. So he's commenting about, I forget the person's name right now, but he said something regarding his behavior, and Mourinho came back at him and said, aren't you the same guy who was suspended for 3 years for your betting scandal? By the way, speaking of betting scandal, our last episode, I mentioned that Izzo had been implicated in a betting issue years ago. This came back, this resurfaced, and now he's going to be banned probably throughout the remainder of the best years of his career. So Izzo, one day plays against Roma, has a great match. The next day is suspended from Serie A for the foreseeable future. How is that okay? Shouldn't that have some effect on the match? Like, what? It just took that day. Like, that's ridiculous. Disappointed in the ownership for its non-action. He's asked. He says, no. I work for them. I do the best I can. If I go in the direction that sometimes I'm a little tired of doing so much, because I do so much, I'm more than a coach, and sometimes I get tired. But I have this ability to find myself again. And nothing. Tomorrow, I'm going to Tre Fontane for the Primavera. On Monday, I'll work for Thursday's match. Finding the strength and energy again when you're disappointed with something is a skill of us coaches, but it's there. Speaking about his future, Mourinho says, no, there's no story. I don't want to talk about it. There's the match on Thursday. Tomorrow, for the first time, the boys will have a day off. Maybe if they give me the tickets to go watch tennis, and then I work on Thursday's game. He's got a little bit more. He's got 4 more questions. We're going to go through them. Keep throwing in some likes and comments as well. Thank you, guys. He's asked, or told, it's not really an ask. He says, we haven't seen this big gap compared to Inter despite the many absences. How can you work on the players' heads to avoid individual mistakes? Mourinho responds, Dybala only had one leg. It's difficult for Spina to play so many games. I can only speak highly of these guys. Maybe it's just a new moment in my career. When I lost a match, it was usually difficult to analyze the match. There was a very high level of need. Now I look at the guys with only tenderness and respect. And then having the certainty that the fans look at them as I do and respect them as I do gives me great joy and gives me even more strength for Monday. And Thursday, we're here again. And then having the certainty that the fans look at them as I do and respect them as I do gives me more strength for Monday. For Thursday, we're here. And then it kind of repeats there. For some reason, when I copy and paste this, it comes up 3 times. I got to edit it. The message from the fans. The affection of the fans fills me. It's a strange thing. I've had this empathy in the good moments of my career, but that's easy. We lost, but the people understood everything, what we are, and this makes me tremendous pleasure. Then he's asked a rather interesting question here. Is the Italian football world no longer for you? He responds, I love Italy and I love working in Italy. I've had so much experience over the years. When we talk about Inter, we talk about joy and history. Here, less joy and history, but from a human point of view, it's extraordinary. I'm very happy in Italy. This helps me to feel good, even to laugh a little at situations. I have no problem. Last question. His protests have an effect in the world of football. The other coaches have also had reactions. He says, I don't want to talk about my colleagues. I don't have any personal problems with any of them, and it wouldn't be correct to talk about them. The criticisms for the last game, I think I was clear, and I never questioned the human quality and honesty of the ref. I said that for me, he has no qualities. A referee must be dominant, but empathetic. Today, to the fourth man, I said that he can reach the top because he is empathetic. On Colombo, we wait and see where he can reach, but I think he can get to the top. The most important criticism I've received gives me joy because it came from a person who was qualified for 3 years for betting. Here he goes back to kind of like getting a jibe, a little knife back at that guy. He says, Italy is the only country where such a person has such an institutional role and can to criticize like that. It brings me joy because it means that I'm from a different planet. Oh, Jose. It's true, though. Like, you get these guys who have so many implications in such prior histories, yet they're in places and positions of power. And that shouldn't be. There shouldn't be, whether it's the United States, Russia, or Italy. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't be that way because there are so many qualified people out there who can do a great job. And why are these jobs still controlled by these people who spit poison and don't do good to help the league grow and are just voices behind the desk who pop out once in a while to give their 2 cents to stay relevant? And it's not fair. It's not fair to us as fans either. Okay, on to the comments. Bad chef. Don't talk about Ito. Talk about the absence of true football at Roma. Ali says, I always value context more than content. Content is that we lost. Context is that some of the starting 11 and subs aren't top 4 material. We have played more games than any Italian team with less depth. Yes, Roma has played the most games since Jose Mourinho's arrival for any team in Serie A. And that comes because of the Conference League, because of the length of time now that Roma progressed into the Europa League. And it's absolutely taken its toll. And I think you make an interesting point there, Ali, is that some of these players, a lot of these players are ones who are brought in because of injuries. And we look at their overall quality. They're not the type of subs and players you would expect on a team that fights for the top 4. Top 8, okay, yeah, you can get away with that because there's a strong starting 11. But the actual depth to go further while fighting a deep competition on 2 fronts, that's another story for me. And I don't think that we should really be disappointed. Rather, I think that the players from our perspective should be, I think, a bit appreciated. That doesn't mean that they're free from criticism. We're fans, and it's okay. Like, we can, that's what we do, right? We talk, we give player ratings, we say, oh, this guy didn't do enough, this guy did that. But at the end of the day, I think, like what Ali says here, is the context is the most important thing. And here today, you have a B squad at best who's exhausted. Even the B guys are exhausted. And they came out and tried their best and tried to make it happen. And you know what? Kamara, guy who hasn't played nearly enough minutes to be a starter in such an important match, came out today and gave it his all and won a lot of balls and really put his best foot forward, no pun intended. Other guys, let's look around. Who else you could say that had a pretty good shift today? Cristante, I want to give credit to him. The guy has played every single match, goes in from being a center mid to a really important defensive midfield anchor along with Matic, interchanging that pendulum aspect mechanism, to now a center back covering Chris Smalling. What do you expect? What other player do you know in world football that comes to that situation and is able not only to do it, but to complete it. And I want to say that Cristante, for all intents and purposes, has put in some pretty good shifts at emergency stopgap center back. So give him some credit, guys. On top of it, let me know what else you think. Keep writing in comments. Spence says these injuries are killing us at the moment. Maybe it's time to go all in on the Europa League. I think so. I think this is the point of the season where Roma's pretty far out. They're not going to catch Lazio, even if they did drop points today. I don't think that's going to happen. 4 games to go, 12 points up for grabs. Roma still have to play Fiorentina. I think that Roma should appropriate their players for the Europa League, and that it should take precedence at this point. If Dybala's fit, I would say he comes in off the bench for the remainder of the Serie A season, as long as there's still a shot for the Europa League. That's me. I'm not the manager. I won't make that choice. Just for me, that makes the most sense. And I think for fans, that probably at this point makes the most sense for us as well. And let's not pretend like other teams don't do that. Lazio has done this for years. Other European teams that made the Europa League, Italian ones, have done this for years, where they don't put out their strongest 11 for a European competition because they know that they cannot sustain it. And they're like, why am I going to do that? Why am I going to go and stretch myself to get into the quarterfinals of a competition that doesn't pay me much, and then sacrifice those standings that otherwise I could have gained ground in the league? It doesn't really make sense. Can't wait for Thursday. Let's see what happens. We've got Bologna coming up as well. That's going to be a tough one. Thiago Motta's team. We got Bayer Leverkusen, and it's probably going to be our Primavera versus Bayer Leverkusen at this point. I wish if you know any Leverkusen fans, throw them my way, and maybe we could chat and get to know them a little bit better. I haven't seen them play this season. I'm going to start to do my research. Speaking about research, there's been some interesting players linked to Roma the past week. However, I don't want to go too far into them because at this point, it's just tabloid stuff. Saudi Arabian takeover. You probably saw some news. I saw a video. Oh my God, there's a wasp next to me. If it stings me, I'm just going to take one for the team. We're going to keep streaming. That had no credibility to it. Who knows where these links come from? Sometimes it's just chit chat. Who knows where it's driven from? It's not enough for me to go and make a video and start to present that as news. It's not anything right now. It's just a report. And don't forget that websites, how do they make money? By getting clicks off of ad revenue. So consider that and take most of this stuff with a grain of salt. Inter, Milan, Juve, Atalanta could still drop points, to be fair. Yeah, it's actually true. Milan won today. Lazio dropped points, but Milan could still very much with 12 points. They're not, I don't think any of these teams that we see here from Sven are going to win all 12 of those. So crazier things have happened, my friends. And sorry, I scrolled to the bottom. Here we go. Nisien says, Sven, they could, but we could as well. The depth won't be enough for 4th, maybe enough for 2 big key games in the EL. But the league positions fight is done for. Marco's here. He says, all this proves that Jose didn't create tactics and team with fluid chemistry. He created defensive-minded squad with lack of real movement that hangs on individual quality. Well, what would you say, though, when we look at the way that Roma played today and how many crosses they got into the box and how many opportunities that there were, rather if they were aerial or on the ground, that Roma just simply couldn't figure out what to do with that. Belotti did not seem to be in the right place at the right time. Is that due to chemistry? Is that due to training and how they actually work their offensive drills? I don't know. That I can't say, and I can't assume, because if you assume, what do they say? You make an ass out of you and me. I don't want to do that. So Ali says, Marco, this is true football. This is the real world. When you're dealt a certain deck against more powerful teams, this is how you approach the games. Matic was definitely man of the match. Yeah, again, Michael Cabral. Matic is so classy, and I feel fortunate to have him on this team. I really enjoy watching him. I think he is an example of how to behave and conduct yourself on the pitch, the amount of energy he puts out, and it takes a lot. He's up there in the years for a center midfielder, yet gives it everything he has. The man has a heart like a horse. Speaking of, it's 5:25 where I am, and the Kentucky Derby will be coming on quite soon. I'm definitely going to be watching that, probably around 6 or 6:30. Sina says, I'm just hoping to win the Europa League so Mourinho and Dybala will stay. And we could get better players to our foster. I'm hoping that too. I really want Dybala to be here for a long time. I do as well for Mourinho. I think that something special can be built. I don't like flip-flopping of coaches. How many times, think of this off the top of your head, how many times does flip-flopping coaches actually work when it seems like there's some deep-rooted issues? Think about Tottenham. Think about Manchester United. Now, okay, Manchester United brought in Ten Hag, great manager. They've also spent a ton. They bought Sancho, who's a phenomenal player. They bought Antony for almost 100 million euros. They should be doing really good. They should be in like the top 2 or 3 places of the Premier League. So it's not just flip-flopping coach and you're going to find your answer. You can only pull the strings so far. Roma's budget, guys, don't forget, 7 million euros last season. 7 million euros. That's not even the budget of a championship team. Maybe the 3rd English division. That's how much they spend. So let's keep this relative. Sufjan says, Pellegrini, Cristante, and Mancini fought 120 minutes for us against Feyenoord, and then they haven't rested any games since then. They're running on fumes and not helped by injured teammates. Any news on Smalling available for Thursday? Nothing. Last thing I read is that Smalling, it was about 3 weeks. I don't know if we're up to there yet. I wouldn't count on Smalling. And Kumbula is done for the season. Karsdorp, from what I understand, is also done for this season. The only reason 34-year-old Matic was rested was because he was disqualified. Oh, yeah, last match, Matic had the yellow card accumulation. Matic and Cristante, man of the match, if you ask me. Hats off to Cristante for playing that center back position. The return leg against Leverkusen is in 12 days. Enough time to rest players and maybe recover some guys. Yeah, that really does help. I think the final would be on May 28th. Maybe someone wants to confirm that. But I know that the Serie A season just goes pretty deep this year, deeper than others because of the World Cup. Our record without Smalling is abysmal, Michael says, if not more important than Dybala. Yeah. Leverkusen plays 4-3-3. They like to create from their defensive line, and they attack through their quick wingers. Thoughts on the Primavera kids? Yeah, some. I think that Volpato is a player who could be a star for Roma in the future. It's going to take some nurturing. It's going to take some time, just as well for Eddie Bove, who stepped up again today. So, like Mourinho said in his press conference, was just about to go out on loan to Triestina. Triestina is a team from Trieste. I don't even know if they're in Serie B this year. Are they in Ci And it shows you like what he's working with. And Mourinho has never had a team like this. No, I don't think any manager is going to be able to pull Roma to the Champions League places like as of today. I don't think anybody could have done it, to be honest with you. Trying to think of like the craziest tacticians out there. Somebody who can just maybe like some of those relegation guys. Maybe like not relegation, more like a Ranieri. Maybe he could have gotten a couple more points, but he's not a long-term guy you want like the way that you do with Jose. Maybe. That's a big maybe. We've also had a few players that play out of position. Yes. And this hinders their personal growth because different positions require different skill sets. Paul says Roma played a great first half, then exhausted. Leverkusen started slow, gained momentum, but slowed down again and lost yesterday to Köln. Yeah, they're beatable, but have some players which can make the difference if they have a good game. Ibanez today too, and against Lazio, Kumbula against Cremonese. As much as I love this team and its dedication, we really lack in certain positions. Ibanez. Tough couple games for him this season. Let's leave it at that. The wingers are deadly. That's one thing that concerns me after watching today's game. Maybe Mourinho changes this tactically. Maybe he goes for more defensive approach and doesn't allow Zalewski or Spinazzola or Selic as much room to go up. That's what I'm hoping if that's the situation with these wingers. What are my thoughts on the dangerous moves on Belotti and Pellegrini's yellow card for protesting? I've seen this all of the years as a Romanista. This still shocked me. Are you speaking about them protesting or the fouls against them? If it's for them protesting, I don't blame them. They're at wit's end. And there were a lot of really bad calls today by the referee. So they are human. And don't forget the emotional aspect of this match. They're not computer players, right? This isn't, is it still called FIFA? Or is it EA Sports FC or something like that now? It's not a video game, so I get it. I understand where it comes from. And let's not forget, one of the best players in Roma's history, Francesco Totti, had his fair share of moments, as did Zidane or Maradona. Take any of the top echelon of players. From a human perspective, you can see that the team wants to keep working with Jose. Even the Primavera team is very glowing about him, consistently watching their games and involves them. I think they do as well. I don't think that this locker room is anything but unified. Marco says he created an alibi for himself. Says the bad results are never his fault. I know what you are saying in the sense that Jose will never say, I could have done this and I could have done that. I'm not sure if that's what you want to say openly. I think that in Rome in particular, that opens the Pandora's box for the media, the poisonous media, to really sink their fangs in. Sufyan says, I disagree. Without injuries, this team... Oh, no. With injuries, 100% top 4. If we pulled out Lazio and threw away the Europa League, we could have gotten top 4. Yeah, in another world. But that's not what a professional does. It's not what a top coach is going to do. He's going to go and try and fight for every single trophy that he can get his hands on. Top 4, starting lineup, everybody healthy, this team can take on pretty much any team in the world. Okay, bar maybe like Haaland. I wouldn't want to face Haaland. But I definitely back Roma against many teams with their starting 11. Unfortunately, I think we got to see that maybe once, maybe twice at best with Dybala, Wijnaldum, Smalling, everybody up to bat. Thank you, Sven. That's the hope. I want to be the press guy for AS Roma. I want to be the guy who speaks to the media and says, nope, not taking your question. Talk to the hand. That's the dream job for me, to handle media pressure for Roma and to back the players. I think that's in the cards. I'll do it for I don't know, just throw me like 40 grand and I'll bartend on weekends to make up the difference to pay for my mortgage. How's that sound? All right, MVP, I think probably Cristante or Matic. That was shouted up before. Honorable mention for Kamara, given the situation at hand. Pellegrini also, I think, deserves some credit today. I think he tried his best, a little bit unlucky at times. And Inter's a good team, guys. Don't forget that this is Inter Milan. They should have won the Scudetto last season. They have not one but 4 strikers that they can rely on, with Lukaku, Edin Dzeko, Lautaro Martinez has 19 goals, and Correa. This is no slouch of a team. Nicolo Barella, one of the best center mids in Italy, the best center mid on the Italian national team. Let's not pretend like this is some slouch team. And it's Roma's B/C team that they went up against. If you're watching this on a record, leave a comment as well. We answer them. We get into some good conversations after the fact as well. And I think one of the last comments here, Sufjan says, I can see where this team can go in the long term. Rarely do I feel this team is outclassed against any opposition. It's always a close game these days against the top 4 or big European teams. Yeah. Yep. Always a close game. Don't forget that this team beat Inter at the San Siro in a comeback. This team went toe-to-toe with Milan twice and had 2 draws against them and played them a week ago. If that, exactly a week ago with a game in between. Okay? Beat Juventus. Last year, Roma took no points off teams from the top 4. Next year, hopefully, we could see Roma take out Lazio. It's been some time, but I think we're due for a nice Derby della Capitale to go the way of Giallo e Rosso. If you know what I'm saying. All right, guys. Do your thing. You have a nice weekend. We'll talk soon. We got the Mourinho press conference in here. We got a little bit of everything and some good conversations. Season's not over. Say a prayer for these guys. Injury history. If you're a Buddhist, send some good karma their way. Send some good energy, some good vibes, because I think the players really need it right now. Don't get distracted by the toxic conversations on social media. If you're tagging players, just give them support. Un po' di sostegno. We'll talk soon, guys. Ciao.